Eddie Journey, welcome to Neko Novel.
Kiki's journey is not just about flying. It's about realizing that imagination itself is the truest human magic.
That really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking deep into Eiko Kadono's classic Majo no Takyuben, or as most of the world knows it, Kiki's delivery service.
Right.
And our mission here is to unpack this story, which, seems like just a lovely fantasy on the surface.
Yeah.
But it's actually this really profound, surprisingly detailed look at self-reliance, the value of work, and even that kind of anxiety you feel when starting something totally new.
It really is. It's a story that carries, a surprising weight. Especially, I think, for anyone who's ever navigated a new job or, trying to figure out who they are through their work.
Yeah.
So we're going to explore why Kiki starting her own little business, finding her way in this seaside town, Koriko, why that connects so deeply, really across generations, from young people just starting out to, established professionals.
It's almost like a blueprint for building a life, isn't it?
Exactly. From scratch.
Okay, so let's get into it. Now, many people probably know Kiki mainly from that iconic 1989 Studio Ghibli film.
Oh, definitely. Miyazaki's version.
But we want to start with the original books, which actually had a pretty long journey themselves.
That's right. The author is Eiko Kadono. And the story, it didn't just pop up as a novel.
Oh.
No, it was first serialized piece by piece in a parenting magazine called Haha no Tomo. That was back in 82 to 83.
A parenting magazine. Interesting.
Yeah. And the first actual book volume came out in 1985.
Yeah.
But the really crucial thing is how long it ran. The series went on for 24 years.
24 years. Wow.
Yeah, the final 6th volume came out in 2009. So Kiki literally grew up alongside her readers, in a way.
That's incredible. And the core literary idea, the thing that really defines the whole series, Kiki's a witch, right? But she's not like the witches we might think of in the West with like a whole spell book.
No, not at all. And that limitation is, I think, the genius of it. Kadono made a very deliberate choice to limit Kiki's magic to just one single thing. Flying on her broom.
Just flying.
Just flying. So the magic isn't this easy fix for everything. It's a specific skill, a specialized talent. She doesn't get to just wave a wand and solve the plot.
I find that fascinating because that single ability, flying, it stops being just fantasy. It immediately works as this great metaphor for like your one special skill in the real world, your core expertise.
Precisely. You might have one thing you're really good at, one marketable talent, and the whole challenge becomes, okay, how do I use this? How do I make a living from it?
Right. How do you build something around it?
Exactly. The entire plot really hangs on Kiki using that one skill to start her witch's delivery service in Koriko. And because she only has flying, it forces her to use, what the Japanese sources call wisdom and careful planning.
Ingenuity, basically.
Ingenuity, yes. She has to figure out all the practical stuff, logistics, pricing, dealing with customers, all based on that single unique asset she has.
So the setup then, it's like the ultimate test of independence, the ultimate first job.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
She's 13. And the tradition demands she leave home, leave her witch mother, Kokiri, and her human father, Okino, for a whole year of training. Alone.
13. That's young to be striking out completely alone.
It is. And she lands in this new town, Koriko, finds a place to stay with Osono, who runs the Gochoki-pan bakery. She's very kind.
Oh, Sono, yes.
And setting up that delivery service, her job, that becomes the way she has to interact with the community. It's how she connects, how she initially defines her value to these new people.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Beyond just the plot, this story has real educational significance, especially in Japan. It's not just seen as a fun adventure.
Oh, absolutely not. The source materials are clear. Kiki's delivery service is actually used as teaching material in Japanese language arts classes in elementary schools.
Really? For which grades?
For grades 4, 5, and 6. Multiple publishers included. So that tells you something about its perceived importance culturally.
And that age range, roughly 10 to 12 years old, that feels really significant. Why is Kiki's journey considered such a good fit for kids right at that particular stage?
Well, think about it. That's a really crucial developmental time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kids are starting to shift from seeing themselves just as part of their family
Uh-huh.
to beginning to understand their place in, the wider world, in society.
Mm.
And Kiki's challenge is moving away, starting a business, being independent. It's a fantastic sort of gentle introduction to pretty complex ideas like social independence and even career perspective.
Okay, career perspective. That term, shokugikan. For someone listening, maybe in the West, that might just sound like, picking a career path, planning your job.
Right, but it's deeper than that in this context. It's
Mhm.
not just about like economic planning or finding a job title.
What is it about then?
It's more about understanding your function, your value within a community. It's
Mm.
social. Kiki's story teaches young readers that having a career perspective means figuring out how your skills contribute to the social fabric.
Ah, I see. So it's less about making money and more about being useful in a social sense.
Exactly. If it were just about money, she could deliver anything in personal packages.
Mm.
But her delivery service, it's framed as transporting people's thoughts and feelings. It's explicitly about connection. Her work is a medium for that connection.
That's a beautiful way to put it. She's doing emotional labor almost, disguised as logistics. Are there specific examples from the books that really highlight this?
Oh, definitely. Her deliveries are often super emotionally charged. Like, there's a time she has rushed some poetry and a fountain pen to a girl who's about to confess her love.
Oh, wow, high stakes.
Totally. Or she has to race against time to ring the town clock tower bell because the mechanism broke right before a big ceremony. And maybe my favorite, the slightly absurd one where she rushes a sea captain his belly warmer.
A belly warmer.
Right.
Yeah.
But all these tasks, they're not just transactions. They're acts that matter to the community, acts of social significance. She's literally weaving herself into the town's lifeblood through these deliveries.
But wait, if she's doing all this, emotional, heavy lifting, transporting feelings, does that ever clash with needing to actually run a business, make it sustainable? That sounds like a very modern problem purpose versus profit.
That is the tension, isn't it? And it
Mm.
feels very intentional. The source material really suggests that the true value Kiki accumulates isn't measured in, yen or whatever currency they use.
Right.
It's measured in the social capital, the trust she builds. And that trust, that network of connections, is what ultimately secures her independence.
And that independence, that stability, it's really cemented by something you mentioned earlier, that moment she goes home briefly, but then decides to return to Koriko.
Yes, that decision to go back to Koriko is huge. It's the ultimate statement of her maturity, her self-reliance. It basically confirms that she's established a new psychological anchor, not with her family anymore, but in this community she helped build through her own work.
She made it her own place.
Exactly. Koriko becomes her second hometown, chosen by her. That choice, that active decision, is what really defines her independence.
Okay, let's pivot slightly to Eiko Kadono herself, the author. Because this core idea, the limited magic forcing ingenuity, that wasn't an accident.
No, not at all. Kadono has been very open about this.
Mm.
She basically said, look, if Kiki had lots of different magic spells, problems would just poof, disappear.
Right. Too easy. No story.
Exactly. No dramatic tension.
Yeah.
By limiting her power to just flying, Kiki is constantly forced to rely on her own brain, her ingenuity, her problem-solving skills. And that, Kadono felt, makes the story much more compelling.
So if flying is just the vehicle, the skill,
Yeah.
what did Kadono see as the real magic, the human magic?
Her core philosophy, and she talks about this a lot in relation to the book, is that imagination,
Yeah.
Senchuku, is the greatest magic a human possesses.
Imagination.
Yes. Kiki's job becomes truly valuable because she has to imagine. She has to imagine the recipient's joy or the sender's urgency. She has to imagine the solution to tricky delivery problems. It's empathy and imagination that elevate her work beyond just, carrying stuff around.
And this depth, this focus on loneliness and resilience, it wasn't just theoretical for Kadono, was it? It came from her own life.
Oh, very much so. It's deeply informed by her biography. When she was just 24, she moved to Brazil, lived there for 2 years, completely on her own.
Brazil. Wow, that's a big move.
Huge. Imagine navigating a totally foreign culture,
Yeah.
the language barriers, finding somewhere to live, dealing with that intense loneliness, and having to build a life, socially and professionally, from absolute zero.
So that real world experience of being an outsider, of having to figure things out alone, that fed directly into Kiki's feelings in Koriko.
Absolutely. Kiki's initial awkwardness, that sense of not quite belonging, her quiet worry about whether her skill is actually useful, these are direct echoes of Kadono's own struggles and her eventual success in Brazil. It gives this story this powerful, almost semi-autobiographical layer about resilience.
Okay, now we have to talk about the version most people probably encountered first.
Mm.
The 1989 Studio Ghibli film, directed by the great Hayao Miyazaki. You called it a recreation earlier, not just an adaptation.
Yes, and I think that's a really important distinction. It takes the core elements, but reshapes them significantly.
And the biggest change, the thing that really defines the film's central conflict.
Without a doubt, it's the introduction of Kiki temporarily losing her magic. That slump.
Right, the slump. Which, you said, isn't in the original books.
No, not at all. The books are more episodic, focusing on gradual growth, specific delivery challenges. There's no sudden crisis where her core ability just vanishes. But in the film, that loss of flight becomes the absolute central dramatic engine. The whole story pivots around it.
And that slump, wow, it became such a powerful metaphor. What are some of the ways people interpret why Miyazaki added that? What does it represent?
Oh, it's incredibly rich. Lots of interpretations floating around. Very often it's seen as a metaphor for adolescence itself, right?
Yeah.
That turbulence, the identity crisis, losing that sort of childhood omnipotence, that feeling you can do anything.
Uh-huh. Growing pains, essentially.
Exactly. But there are other layers too, some people point to.
The romance angle.
Yeah, the lovesickness theory. The idea that her budding, confusing feelings for Tombo the boy in town distract her, cause anxiety, and that somehow drains her power. So the slump is tied to her maturing emotions.
And it also gets linked to something more professional or creative through the character Ursula, the painter.
Exactly. Ursula plays this crucial role in the film, acting as a kind of spiritual mentor. She frames Kiki's problem not as some unique witch issue, but as a universal thing, like creative block or burnout.
Right. She says something like, sometimes you just have to struggle.
Precisely. She normalizes
Yeah.
it. And ultimately, the slump forces Kiki to really earn her magic back. It transforms it from this inherited power, something maybe borrowed from her lineage, into her own power, validated through real struggle and effort.
And this theme of finding her own footing, her mental independence, it's also reflected in changes made to other characters, right? Like Jiji, her black cat.
Oh, Gigi's change is so symbolic. In the books, Jiji keeps talking to Kiki throughout. But in the film,
He stops talking at the end.
he stops talking.
Yeah.
And that's widely interpreted as symbolizing Kiki achieving complete mental independence. She doesn't need that voice anymore, that sort of inner alter ego, the comforting childhood self represented by Jiji, to navigate the world.
That's subtle but really powerful. The silent cat means she's standing on her own 2 feet, mentally. What about Tombo? He was changed too.
Yeah, Tombo's quite different. In the book, he's more of a quiet, serious, nerdy type, really into aviation history and mechanics.
Okay.
In the film, he's much more outgoing, active, part of this whole group of kids interested in flying machines. He's more social.
And how does that change affect the story?
Well, it arguably amplifies Kiki's initial sense of being an outsider when she first arrives in Koriko. Seeing him easily interacting with this established group kind of highlights her own loneliness and awkwardness, makes her feel even more isolated in this big, bustling town.
Ah, makes sense. It raises the initial stakes for her fitting in. Okay, so considering all this depth, the book and the film, it's no wonder the story has such global reach. You mentioned 21 translated editions?
That's right. It's resonated far beyond Japan.
So, where does Kiki fit within the bigger picture of literature? particularly stories about young women finding their way, achieving independence.
She fits very neatly into a strong tradition of female protagonists defining themselves through, well, ingenuity, hard work, and often imagination. The most immediate comparison, I think, is with Ella Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables.
And interesting connection. How so?
Both Anne and Kiki use their extraordinary imagination as a primary tool to navigate adversity and carve out their identity in communities where they are initially outsiders. Anne's imagination transforms Green Gables. Kiki's imagination elevates her delivery service. It perfectly echoes Kadono's idea about imagination being the true power.
Okay, I see that. What about defining oneself through a specific skill or profession?
That connects her to works like Nahoko Ihachi's Morabito series. Now, Balsa, the protagonist there, is a bodyguard, a spear wielder, very different from Kiki.
Yeah, just a bit.
But despite the vastly different jobs, both characters use their chosen profession, mercenary versus delivery girl, as the fundamental way they grapple with who they are and deal with significant social challenges. Their identity is deeply tied to their work.
A commitment to the job defines them.
Exactly. And then thinking maybe more towards American literature.
Little Women. Joe March.
You read my mind. Yes, L.M. Alcott's Joe March. There are strong shared themes. Pursuing a unique talent. Kiki's flying, Joe's writing often against societal expectations. And that's striving for not just emotional fulfillment, but for real professional independence. Kiki's intense desire to make her unique skill useful really echoes Joe's drive to be a published author, to make her mark.
It's fascinating how these themes echo across different times and cultures. So, bringing it all together, what's the big takeaway here? Kiki's delivery service really seems to operate on multiple levels.
It absolutely does. It works like a mirror, reflecting different things depending on where you are in life. For younger readers, it's this exciting adventure about discovering your own magic, your special skill, and taking those full steps towards independence.
Right.
But for adults, revisiting it, well, you see different things. You might notice the crucial role of community support, the kindness of Osono, which is just unconditional. Or you might feel the quiet ache of parenting, like Kyuki's mother, Kokiri, having to let her daughter go face the world alone. That's tough.
Yeah, that letting go is a huge part of it. Ultimately, though, the story seems to emphasize that the real reward Kiki finds isn't really about business success, is it?
Not in purely economic terms, no. The source material hammers this home. The true treasure is her developed imagination, her ability to connect, and the genuine relationships she builds through her work and ingenuity. That value, the story suggests, you just can't put a price tag on.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on.
Yeah, I guess I'd leave you with this. What is your unique magic? That one singular skill or passion you possess? And maybe more importantly, how are you using your own ingenuity and effort, as Kadono puts it, to bring that magic into the world and connect with the community you choose to build around you?
Something to think about.